Hey everybody, welcome to Dad Talk. Today we are live in Rapid City, South Dakota at Freedom Fest 2021, and I'm so pleased, guys, to be sitting beside Mr. Richard Mack. Richard, how you doing?
Doing well, thanks.
So I'm sitting here with Mr. Richard Mack. Now, Richard, I know you told me that you're a former sheriff, and you know about some of the dealings that's going on with CPS and the family law courts.
Well, yeah, I actually started my police career in Provo, Utah, where I was a detective, and I specialized in child abuse and juvenile delinquency. As a matter of fact, for 2.5 years, I was the school resource officer, and I handled all criminal complaints against children or that juveniles committed in 12 different schools. And so I became pretty adept at teaching people I taught teachers how to recognize child abuse in the entire Provo school district. And so I hate child abuse. I absolutely detest it. And the parents and relatives that I arrested for committing acts of violence against children, I don't even like talking about those cases. Some of them were so horrible.
I can imagine.
But on the other hand, this quote child protection service in every state has become so Gestapo and Nazi-ish that I'm sorry, but the cure is worse than the disease.
Absolutely. So, guys, note that, his background was in as a detective to see the signs of child abuse, to warn other people about it. You're no stranger to this. Your family has experienced some of this. Tell us what you know, Richard. The platform is here for guys like you to get this out, and we need to hear it.
My son got divorced about 11 or 12 years ago. He had 3 kids, and his wife moved to Kentucky, and he still lived in Arizona, so he had to go back and forth. We went with him several times to court, and finally, she got everything. This is a kid who never hurt a child, never would hurt a child, and in fact, they even had a system where they didn't want to tell their children no, that they were trying to parent in the way the kids would see these things for themselves and learn. I really respected both of them for that. They were trying hard, and they didn't want to spank their children. And so I thought, okay, great, they were really trying to be good parents. Well, they got divorced, and then all of a sudden, she said that he was an abusive husband, that he raped her, and all this stuff. And none of this came up while they were married. They were married 7 or 8 years.
Perfect husband until we start to get divorced.
Okay. And so finally we got to where we could talk with them a little bit, and they would ask us to tend the kids when they really needed to, and it started getting better. And I even wanted to spend some time with her, so I actually took not my son that was married to her, but my other son, and I took her on a trip to New York just to have a good time. Okay, we went to Broadway Place, and we had a good time, and I just wanted her to know that I liked her and wanted to be a good father, father-in-law. And so that went well. It went very well. But a couple years after that, they got divorced, and it got real ugly, and real ugly bad. And so my son, ultimately in the divorce, got visitation, and she was in charge of everything. Well, he would get visitation that was, what was it, if you're accompanied
by an adult.
No, but they
supervised.
had to supervise. That's it. Yep. Thank you. Where'd that word go? So he had to have supervised visitation. Everything went fine with that. The counsel said, "Oh, he's doing fine." The kids are starting to warm up to him, and so he got 2 hours. Every time he had a visit, she would complain that he abused the kids. Every single time. And then it got to where he was sexually abusing the kids. Both. So now she wants to say that my son is a homosexual pedophile and a heterosexual pedophile. Both. Right. He's everything. He rapes me. He's raping them. Both sides, boy and girl, and abusing them physically, beating them, all of this stuff. And finally, she got held in contempt of court over all this, making this stuff up. And it just kept happening even after that. So finally, he's going to sue them. He's going to sue the state because they literally, the state of Kentucky, destroyed his rights as a father. They wouldn't let him be a father.
What's that like as a father, seeing this happen to your son?
Well, we wanted to be grandparents to our grandkids. We were never allowed. I haven't seen my grandkids in over 10 years.
Well, there's the lost conversation. A lot of times we talk about fathers' rights and getting some equality, but grandparents get lost in the discussion every single time. My mom, it's been 2.5 years since I've seen my youngest daughter. My mom hasn't seen her granddaughter in 2.5 years. I've got custody of my other children, but because of the family law courts, and I can't afford it to go and do the fight, this is what we go through, and it's criminal.
It's pathetic and it's criminal. It is. And so we're still fighting that. And as soon as he gets his attorney and he's filing a lawsuit against his first wife for alienation as father, and then also suing the state of Kentucky, CPS, for the same thing. They even had hearings about removing my son's rights as a parent without ever notifying him. Nothing. They just did it like a star chamber behind closed doors. They never even notified him. And so then we go back just 6 months from now, December of 2020, and CPS does it in Arizona to my daughter. So she notifies CPS in Arizona that her husband, her second husband, was a little bit too rough with one of her daughters, 8-year-old. And so she says, look, it wasn't that bad. She told this to her counselor. She had just a little tiny pink abrasion on her. That was it. It was no big deal. They still like each other. We still want to keep things. And the counselor said, no, you got to call CPS. Call CPS. She called CPS, and CPS came and took the kids out of the home and took custody to a foster home, the 2-year-old boy. My little grandson was taken by, I was there. My wife and I said, hey, we can take him. So they interviewed us, and they said because we didn't agree with everything they said happened, that they wouldn't let us be qualified as parents. Their own rules say that's against the rules. Because we disagreed with what they did, they said we couldn't take the child.
Well, there's many people that's been telling us, and we're getting more and more awareness that CPS is involved in the human trafficking. They want them to end up in the adoption center and to have to pay that money or to make that money.
There was absolutely no reason for them to take
and
the
you're
grandson.
Someone that was trained in child abuse to know these situations, and there was no reason for this to happen.
I told him that. I'm a former detective that does child abuse. And I train people how to recognize it. I hate child abuse. It's the worst crime in America, in the world, except for human trafficking and sexual exploitation of children. And I'm going, why can't my wife and I do? Oh, you didn't agree with us.
Now, were there other cases like this before this started happening to your children that you saw when you was in office where CPS got involved?
All the time. The whole time I was sheriff. And so we actually got to where we didn't trust CPS. And I've talked to other sheriffs in Arizona right now. They won't call them anymore. They won't, because they know that they go too far and they take children and they put them up for adoption, and people lose their kids. And it looks like a racket. I'm telling you, it looks like a racket. I'm not accusing them, but I will say this. These are evil people, and I told them that night. And there were 2 cops there and said they were keeping the peace. I said, you're not keeping the peace. You're allowing these people to kidnap my grandson. There is no reason, and both you officers know, there is no legitimate reason why my wife and I cannot take the children. And they were still, oh, well, that's not our part. You're allowing it. I said, they're kidnapping my grandson. He wasn't even involved in this at all. It was my granddaughter that's 8 years old. The 2-year-old, they said, well, they can't guarantee their safety. Your daughter can't guarantee their safety. I said, I can. And they said, no, but you didn't. This is how the racket works. Now, tell me this. In 4.5 days, they brought the grandson back. What happened between that 4.5 day period that they needed to take him so badly, but they brought him back so quickly? There was nothing that had changed. Nothing. And these people are such thugs and evil that they just, no matter what, they're going to take that grandson. And they literally ripped him out of his big sister's hands and my granddaughter, and she just started bawling when they saw that they were just 2 strangers taking away her little brother.
Richard, how do you think it got to this point with CPS doing this?
You were supposed to be on my show a couple weeks ago. Steven,
it
was meant to be a good thing.
That's the $10,000 question.
Right.
Because it is it has turned from helping families to being a Nazi Gestapo bunch of thugs. And they're not helping families. You would think that they would be doing everything they can to help children stay in homes. They're not doing that anymore. They're making sure they're taking them. And we have a Hispanic cleaning lady, and we told her about it because we were so upset. We told her about it. She said, she started crying. She said, they took my son 18 years ago, and I've never seen him since. And she was just crying, I gave her a hug, and I said, I'm so sorry that we've allowed this to happen in this country. So they don't care who it is. It doesn't matter what race, what religion. These people are a bunch of thugs that are taking kids, and they shouldn't be doing this. And the governors of the states own this. These agencies work for the governor, and the governors need to get involved in cleaning this up and making sure that this isn't happening anymore.
Well, this is happening under their nose. How aware do you think that they actually are that this is going on? I've had more and more people talking about it. I haven't talked to the governors, but how aware do you think
the governors have to be aware?
I think
the complaints come to the governor's office all the time, and as a matter of fact, we were planning to sue, and you know what the law firm that said that does handle this all the time, they said, your case is too innocuous. Your case is too minor for us to handle it. We're going after all the ones that have lost their children for 10 years, 15 years, or forever. That's who we're busy doing this with. I said, you mean if we pay you $50,000, you can't take the case? Well, we need the money and we would love that, but it's almost impossible to add you to our list because we're so busy with the real important cases that never get their kids back. And if the governor doesn't know that, then shame on him. You know, every governor should know this, and they should make sure that these thug agencies don't do this anymore.
If there were any grandparents out there that have a child that's experiencing this, or any parents that are now starting to experience this with CPS, what could you say to them, Richard, to be aware of?
Well, first, absolutely get an attorney right at the very beginning. Get somebody that can help you and that knows these agencies, because there's not much you can do. It's like I said, it's just like dealing with the Gestapo. If you get in their way, they'll charge you. If you try to keep the child, they'll charge you. They'll arrest you. You're in for it. So we were really glad that we got the attorney that we did. He was very knowledgeable, and we got him immediately. And my son in Kentucky, the only thing I would say is that the attorneys need to be, his attorney needs to be more aggressive. This should not have been going on for 10 years, you know. But I'm sorry, attorneys cost, and I hope that there's more agencies that will help people on a pro bono basis, because man, this is happening way too much. And I thought our ultimate goal was to help families stay together. And the governors need to check on these agencies every day to make sure they're doing that.
Richard, I think I was meant to be here in South Dakota to talk to you.
Thanks.
I really do. Hearing this is definitely an eye-opener. I talk a lot about the family courts and how the attorneys and the politicians are really feeding into that, you know, making money off the destruction of broken families.
Well, I can tell you honestly,
CPS is no different.
Your heart has been broken over this. It has torn our hearts out. It has broken our hearts. And I'm so sorry that people have to go through this.
Absolutely. On the way out, I want you to close this part of the show out. If there was anything that you could say to these people in CPS, what would it be?
First of all, you need to look at your own training, and you need to look at what you're doing. Are you serious that you're taking children out of homes when there is no need for that? That you would actually do something like that? And that you would keep these kids and put them up for adoption? Why don't you expose and be transparent about the money that comes into your agencies from federal government when you take kids from home? What kind of money do you get in? What is happening that you're doing this for money? What is happening that you could do something so evil to take a son from a home that has no business being taken from a home? I admit that there are some abusive situations where you need to be involved. But nobody trusts you anymore because of all the other thuggery things you do in taking children out of homes that shouldn't. It's time for you guys, if you're really good people, that you need to re-examine what you do and stop destroying families and putting kids up for adoption that shouldn't be. This is absolutely human trafficking, and you're doing it. So stop it, repent of what you've done, and make sure that your training is pro-family and pro-keeping kids with their parents.
Richard Mack, thank you so much, sir.
All right, brother.
And I hope it gets better.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey guys, Eric Carroll with Dad Talk today, and wanted to take a second to introduce you to one of my sponsors. Check this out.
Hey Eric, how are y'all doing? Mike Lindell here from My Pillow. I really love Dad Talk today and everything you're doing, and wanted to support.
Mike, yeah, cut it out, man. Okay, it's cut out. But he really does support us, guys. And My Pillow is now a sponsor. And you know what? We're passing the savings on to you just for being a viewer of Dad Talk. If you go to mypillow.com and put in coupon code Dad Talk, no spaces, DADTALK, man, if you don't have a My Pillow, you're missing one of the best night's sleep you're ever going to get. They have pillows, they have comforters, they have weighted blankets, they have dog beds, they have sheets, they have all kinds of stuff, guys, and everything they make is amazing, and they support what we do 100%. Please go over to mypillow.com and put in your promo code Dad Talk.